Alright soldiers, before we get into the video, I want everyone to know that I'm going to be streaming the Grand Showdown that's going to be happening on March 22nd in Sommeren on my Twitch channel, so go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. Just on March 22nd, around the time when Sommeren's going to happen, probably an hour prior to, I'm going to start the stream and then we can go ahead and watch along with everybody else. But of course, I do highly encourage you to pay attention to the original source material, and if you want to just hang out with me while I give commentary alongside with the games that are happening, then feel free to join. And on top of the wonderful event that will be streamed, there is going to be a giveaway as well, so make sure you enter into that for free prizes. And I highly encourage you to check out the socials, because this is where you're going to be able to enter the giveaway, and they're going to have the step-by-step process of whatever socials that's up there for whatever giveaway option that they're going to have. So I highly suggest that you go ahead and check these things out so you can enter into the giveaway. Alright, and thank you for listening to me ramble on about that, but I will be streaming this event and I will hope to see you in the future. Now, on to the video. What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverseevolve video. Alright soldiers, in this video we're going to be going over both Puerto Rico and the Netherlands, the topping results that happened at the most recent BCSs this past weekend, and let's see what decks are doing well in those regions. Alright, so starting off with Puerto Rico, we had a very diverse tournament. Unfortunately, no Umas, big sad face, but that's okay. But we had a 25% of Forcecraft with a 20% of Swordcraft, 10% Rune with another 10% Dragoncraft, 25% of BCS with the 5% Havencraft, and then the 5% Cinderella Girls. Well, of course, right now Puppet Force is running a little rampant. It's a very good deck, has very good synergies with a lot of things that Force wants to do. It's a very good, strong Forcecraft deck. But we do have to remember that even though the deck is S tier, that does not mean it's tier 0. It can be beaten. So I'm really glad that people are out there taking different decks out there, different versions of it, and creating their own different builds that are working for this meta. And alright, without further ado, we have our first place list with Seba's Puppet Force deck. Alright, I'm gonna keep it 100 with all of you. Once you've seen one Puppet Force deck list, you've probably seen about all of them. The core is usually the same. We're going to have Sukunas, we're gonna have our Puppet Spawners. We can't play the deck without Orcus. And then there's going to be probably maybe 1 or 2 card differences in every build. But what I like to look at in the differing of these puppet builds are the 2-cost cards, because sometimes people will run Fina or other 2-cost cards that'll help them generate some sort of value, or sometimes even the 5-cost cards, because some people run Spinaria as a 1-up. But in this build, I can see that the 2-cost cards are the Fashionista and the Rhino Roach, so there's no Fina here, so it's straight Forcecraft cards. But there's really not too much to talk about for Forcecraft, at least for puppets at least, because we know how this deck generates. If it hits the gas, it's hitting gas every turn, and if you don't manage to see any puppet spawners, then you're pretty much cooked. But seeing as this person got first place, it seems that their deck performed very well for them. So congratulations, Seba, for getting first place in Puerto Rico, and I hope you have future success in your tournaments. Alright, and next up we have Pleb's second place Mono Abysscraft deck. Alright, so Mono did not go anywhere. I think this is probably the best aggro deck that is out there. I know this deck doesn't go very wide, but the one card does go very tall. If you don't have the answer for the very tall answer, you're taking a lot of damage in one turn. And I'm seeing in this build that they ran Rulanai as a secondary package, which is very good, I would say, because adding that extra tax to your opponent's spells is just very good to prolong the game so you can get some more aggression and damage in there. Alright, so the last card I do want to talk about is the Sylvia. So this is a very good top ender, or in the mid game, or whatever you want to use her. Just pitching her to go ahead and destroy something is very nice, and then also playing her and then destroying something and deal 5 damage to its leader, especially when you're playing a very aggressive deck. Sometimes that might be the 5 damage you need to close out the game. But an all-around very solid Machina Abyss deck. I think this deck still is going to be very good going, set 8 onwards. I think it'll be pretty solid. I don't think it's going to get any support next set, but I think in the sets, maybe in the future, it'll probably get some more. But if you already know, let me know in the comments below. Alright, and moving on into the third place list, we have Way's Puppet Forcecraft deck. Alright, so I might have misspoke here a little bit when I said look for the 2-cost cards, because in this version of the deck, they are running Michelle, And I think when you run Fina, you probably obviously want to run Michelle too, just so you can get that 1-cost card, and then you can go ahead and look for your 5-cost for whatever situation you might need it for. But yeah, even though they are going for the Fina route here, that will also get out the Michelle. I think it's just very good to have the Fina in the deck, just in case you don't have junk turn 1. You can go Fina, hopefully hit the junk or something else that you can hopefully get into, so you can start generating some value. Because missing the puppet spawn on turn 1 probably means that you're not doing very well. Just, they're not going to do very well in the game. If you don't have the puppet spawn turn 1, and if you don't have it turn 2, oh yeah, the game's pretty much cooked. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, I personally hard agree with the Fina on the deck. I know some people will definitely disagree with that, but I'm a personal favorite of having the Fina just so I can hit the 1-cost cards like Sakuna, Junk, and Michelle. If you're even running that, really does kind of suck if you see the spell cards, but you know, that's okay. But yeah, shout out to Wei for getting 3rd place with Puppet Forest. I hope you have much success in your future tournaments. Already, and last but not least, for 4th place, Puerto Rico, we have Shadowjong's Officer/Commander Swordcraft deck. And yes, you heard me correct, this is an Officer/Commander Swordcraft deck. Very different from what we've seen so far, so I think this is a pretty spicy deck that made it into Top Cut. Alright, so we're not going to get into every single aspect of the deck, but we are going to cover some grounds of it. Alright, so stick with me everyone, there's going to be, from what I've seen so far, there's going to be a lot of moving parts, so try your best to stick with me. Alright, so let's start with Geno. So Geno is a card that specifically says when the amulet is played, you select a following your field and give it 1 defense, but we play him for the Evo. You play him for the Evo because when you evolve him, you search your deck for an amulet and reveal it and add it to your hand. You can do this as early as turn 2, going second of course with the evolution point. And of course there's only 1 amulet that we're going to be looking for, and you know, there's Durandal, then Corruptible. It's a very good amulet that you're going to be needing when playing the other card. And if you've been paying attention to anything that's been Swordcraft set 8, you already know when it comes to Durandal, you need to go ahead and get Roland. And having Roland on the field can go ahead and let you play the Durandal from your hand. And then you can also evolve the Roland to go ahead and do 2 of the abilities. And when you evo, you can go ahead and heal 3 and then draw at the end of your turn, which is always going to happen unless your opponent's going to have some end phase effects, which still at the end of turn, your stuff still happens first. But that's how we generate value. Now we need to talk about our secondary engine here. Alrighty, and another engine that I wanted to talk about was the Leonidas being in here. So the Leonidas token is going to do wonders for this one card that I'm seeing that's been snuck into for the list to probably help with as much as you can, and that's the Mayu. So using this on top of the Leonidas Resolve token, I'm pretty sure that's the only reason you're running this card is absolutely insane, because this card becomes a 6/7 with Bane, Assail, and Drain, and with Rush, and that gets that little buff. So making it that big and to gain that much health in one turn is absolutely insane. So I'm honestly thinking that this is more of a just officer, commander, mid-range sword deck that's going to heal, do some big damage with some followers. I think the only thing that this deck doesn't have going for it is probably a whole bunch of consistency. Like if you see your Durandal and you don't have Roland, of course, you know, we're going to run our 3-ofs so we can get to searching, but you know, sometimes we just don't have perfect games like that. But I think all in all, this is a pretty solid Swordcraft list. I would definitely take this for myself and change it around a little bit, but I think this is pretty spicy, and I'm glad this was able to top so I could talk about it. But congratulations, Shadowjong, for getting 4th place. I hope you have more success in your future tournaments. I know this deck was very spicy, and I hope it was very fun to take up there. Alrighty, and we move on into the Netherlands. So in the Netherlands, there had a mixture of results here. Not many decks represented at 20% besides Abysscraft and Forestcraft, but it is good to see that everything was represented. And yes, even Uma was there, so I'm very excited for that too. Reason why I'm being super excited on Uma, I'm low-key watching the anime, but at the same time, you know, Uma is something that's not going to get support for like a little bit of time, so at the same time, just seeing Uma here just makes me really happy. But going down the list, we had Forestcraft at 27%, Swordcraft at 12%, with Rune being at 7%, Dragoncraft being at 12%, Abyss being at 20%, with Havencraft being at 7%. We had the 1% Uma, and then we have the 10% for Cinderella Girls. And without further ado, let's get into our first deck. So we have Flare Enix's first place Dragoncraft deck. Alright, if I knew any better, I'm pretty sure this is Ramp Dragon, so this will be very interesting to talk about because this deck got first Ramp Dragon with some interesting things into it, so we can break down a little bit of the components. Alright, and of course we're going to use the Ramp engine with the Dragon Oracles and the ALS, and then we also have the Akari that came out in Uma that when she takes more than 5 damage, you get a Ramp 1. But this on top of that with Silbul, I think there's a lot of things going from it with the old stuff that'll help you ramp. And running the 2 of Tartman is just very good just because in the late game you really want to make sure you run into any of the cards that you need, or whatever the situation gives, you have the play points to play Tartman and then still be okay because you're going to be ahead of curve, so playing Tartman won't kill you. Alright, now let's start talking about the engines here. So we have 2 main late game engines. So we have the Shaquille that's going to be playing neutral followers from her hand. I think that's most likely going to be used for the Israfil, so you can go ahead and drop her and then heal, evolve her, and then wipe the board if you need to. Or if you just need to go ahead and heal, just play her and then put her back to your hand if you need to, if you're ahead of the curve that high. But most of the time it's probably going to go for the first scenario. And then we have the Fumika. So I think Fumika is very good for the deck just so you can get any 3 cost or 1 cost that you can go ahead and play. And it's pretty cool that the effect doesn't say Idolmaster Cool or any Idolmaster, it just says any 3 cost follower and then any 1 cost follower. And look at that, we have lots of 1-ofs that are 3 cost and 1-ofs. We have the Silbul if that's something that you want to play. We have the Prime Dragon Keeper if you want to play in this direction. And it doesn't say Dragon Followers, so you can play Bad Biddy Katha. And I think the one card that's going to be the best card played off of this, because you're going to be in Post Overflow, is going to be the Marion. Just being able to go ahead and getting 2 cards out of your deck and putting them into play, and then also having their fanfares activate with one of their fanfares being look at the top 3 cards of your deck, as a Dragoncraft follower, put it into your EX area. And since we're Dragoncraft, we're definitely going to have some extra play points to wiggle around with to either playing whatever card it is, but most of the time you can just wait until next turn when it's a bigger card. But all around, I'd say this is a pretty spicy Dragoncraft deck because Ramp has not been around too often, and I'm glad that this deck had some success. Alright, and moving on into our second place list, we have Sword's Natura Swordcraft deck. Now, is it just me, or does it look like this deck needs a little bit of lotion, like just some moisture, just a little bit, just because it looks so cut and dry? Like, from looking at the first list, we had so much sauce in whatever they were doing for their Dragoncraft deck, and just putting so much like finesse in there. And then we have our Natura Sword deck that really doesn't have that much wiggle room, and maybe has like maybe 1 or 2 new cards. But initially, congratulations Suns for getting second place with Natura's Sword. I think Sylvia is a good card to run, especially if your opponent plays a really big bodied card and you want to just go ahead and spend 2 to go ahead and remove it. I think it's very good instead of spending the 4 for Viridian Magna. Now don't get me wrong, does not replace Viridian Magna at all in terms of what she wants to do, but I think it's just good for a cheaper play if you want to remove something. Alrighty, and then in third place we have Light's Natura Swordcraft deck. See, it's like in this version we have Maisha and then Octress, and I feel like this should have been like a second place list just because it's a little spicier, but maybe the secondary engine is probably what killed it and you weren't able to get as into the engine as you wanted to, so I can understand why it probably didn't do as well. But this deck has the Maisha package. I personally like the Maisha package because it comes in with some more hard removal. I probably would have ran an extra Purgation's Blade because a 1-of sounds scary, because this is not Runecraft. You can't search for your spells, so hopefully praying that you hit it off of the mill 5 or whatever can really help, but sometimes like you might not see it in a game. But all in all, congratulations Light for getting third place in the Netherlands. I know it probably had to be a good fight out there, so congratulations for getting third place with the Natura Sword. Alright, and last but not least, we have Reedy's fourth place Puppet Forcecraft deck. Alright, and the first thing I started looking for when I went through this deck is the 2-cost cards, and of course we have the Fina, so I know that we're running an extra Michelle in there, or at least like 2 of, so you can look for your 5-cost cards, that being either the Cassiopeia, Noah, or Anastasia on this list. But we only have a couple more weekends of Forcecraft dominating. Do want to give a reminder that Sovereign is happening this weekend, so we'll probably be seeing a lot of Puppet Forced this weekend, so hopefully it won't go too crazy. But yeah, congratulations, Reedy, for getting a top 4, and I hope you have great success in future tournaments. And alright, soldiers, we made it through all the lists that happened at the most recent BCS. I'm very excited for the BCS this weekend. Everyone has safe travels going up there. And then we also have Grand Showdown, so everyone be extra safe if they're going to be at Grand Showdown and everything. If you're watching my videos, I appreciate it, and I hope you have very good luck in your tournaments this upcoming weekend. But alrighty, soldiers, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me that you are watching. I appreciate and love you. Make sure you're safe in whatever you do tonight and safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Yeah. TRINN. Just to get you away. What I got to do. What I got to do. Just to get you away. What I got to do. What I got to do. Just to get you away. You pull me too close now.